I'm built to endure, rooted within her, healed and whole. Now I'm stronger for sure. Yeah. She got that truth that'll lift you up. Mindset shifted, yeah, we leveling up. From broken to bold, from tired to lit. Brittany Brown got you rooted in. Yeah. Rooted within her. Faith, fitness, focus, yeah, I'm built to endure. Rooted within her. Peace in my heart and my purpose secure. Rooted within her. Faith, fitness, focus, yeah, I'm built to endure. Yeah, I'm built to endure. Peace in my heart and my purpose secure.
Rooted within her, Brittany Brown, oh, yeah. Jingle title.
Thanks for tuning in to Rooted Within Her, your go-to podcast where we're going to be talking about faith, fitness, and having a focused mindset. I am Brittany Brown. I am a veteran, author, mental health therapist, and relationship coach. And I help divorced women break unhealthy relationship cycles, heal their emotional wounds, and rebuild their identity so they can date God's way. So join us daily as we're going to be talking about faith and fitness and having a focused mindset, where you can join our free community so you can have so many resources to help you so you can heal, rebuild, and date God's way. So make sure you grab your notebook, relax, so we can focus on breaking the cycle within and focus on building a better you, because you deserve the best that life has to offer. Be blessed. All right, thank you guys for joining us today. We're going to be talking about those childhood wounds, okay? How so many times in life we don't realize how when we don't deal with our past, it's going to deal with you in one way or nothing. So join us today as we're going to be talking about how childhood trauma shows up in your adult relationships. Before we get into everything, we're going to start with our scripture of the day, Lamentations chapter 3, verse 31 through 32. For no one is cast off by the Lord forever. Okay, no one is cast off by the Lord forever. So when you think about understanding that a lot of times we as humans, we're just so hard on people, right? We're so harsh. We're so hard on people. You know, somebody does something one time, they're like, I'm ready to just be done with you, cut them off like they never existed. But the reality of it is we have to be willing to give people a chance. The same measure that we use to forgive others, God is going to utilize that for us. So it's important for us to do the work, look at ourselves, be real with ourselves, see what it is that we need to challenge, where we need to challenge ourselves at in those moments. So when it comes to recognizing childhood trauma, especially in your adult relationships, as we know, when you are in a relationship, that is the one thing that will mirror yourself, to tell you about yourself, okay? To tell you about yourself, where you need to grow, what areas of your life need some improvement, all of that. And so we have to realize that trauma, you know, it's not just abuse. It's really those unmet emotional needs that you have deep within. And so a lot of times, like I tell people, I do a lot of teaching on the 5 A's of attachment styles, and in therapy, helping people to realize like this, where you are right now in this relationship, it didn't just get here. You know, this comes down to your birth order. This goes down to how you were treated as a child. This goes out to, you know, a lot of times having those moments that were missed and not realizing that you really were looking for something and someone to really come and be your savior. So I have, for example, I had a client who, growing up, her father, he was never at home because he was always on the road. And so she found herself always looking for people who were just emotionally unavailable, not realizing it, but she was. But then she would be upset because these people that she would be dating, they didn't give her the attention, they did not prioritize her, and just really show her the things that she was really looking for. Although when she would come to session, she would say, I don't need that, I don't want that, I'm not looking for that attention. The reality of it is she was looking for that. Patterns repeat until they are healed. And it's important to understand that your healing is up to you. You know, you don't get to choose the trauma that occurs in your life, but your healing is up to you. And it's important to understand that a lot of times things will happen in a relationship that will trigger that emotional childhood wound. So, for example, I'll never forget sitting in communication class and we had to go through these different stories and figure out the root cause behind it. And so there was a situation where a spouse, they got very upset with each other. The husband got mad, threw the plates at the wall, boom, boom, boom. Next day, the wife was like, look, I can't do this, file for divorce. Same situation, next situation, the husband gets upset. They both get upset with each other. Husband throws plates at the walls. The wife's like, hey, let's go get some help. Let's see what we need to do. What's the difference between those two scenarios? The difference is because of the childhood, how you were raised as a child. If you grew up in an environment that was a lot of chaos, a lot of abuse, mentally, physically, then that triggers you. And a lot of times people don't realize how when you go through certain things in your life, it'll take you back to how you were as a child. And so in her mind, in her body remembered that trauma. Her body went back to that fight or flight mode. Her body said, okay, remember when you were literally fighting because of everything in you just to try to stay alive, just to try to, block out the noise of whatever happened in your childhood. And so it's just important for us to really understand that, because this is important, because as you're meeting people and you're talking to people, if you're a person who's out here dating, you have to be understanding of people's past, because of the fact that there might be some things that revealed to you that you are like, hey, I can't deal with that. And we just need to stay friends. And that's perfectly fine. And that's why people need to have the conversations. When we talk about like childhood trauma and really being able to overcome that, other ways that childhood trauma shows up in relationships is father wounds or mother wounds and that attachment. So a lot of times, having an absent parent, a parent that's inconsistent, you start thinking like, oh, well, this is acceptable in a relationship. A parent that's emotionally distant, you think, oh, this is acceptable in a relationship. Not saying that every time you guys are around each other, it's always going to be lovey-dovey, do, all these things. But it's important for us to acknowledge the wounds. Everybody must do a deep dive within themselves and acknowledge the wound. Are you seeking validation? Were you always seeking validation, approval from your parents? Or having to be this perfectionist? Now you're seeking that and desiring that in your relationship, when that's not their responsibility, right? To give you that validation. You have to be able to see your own worth and your value. It's just like Moses with the burning bush in the book of Exodus, right? Dealing with that, with him being able to hear God and see God, and just really how he didn't see his own self. And so we have to start seeing ourselves the way that God sees us, right? Because when we see ourselves the way God sees us, then we show up differently, right? We walk with our head held high, knowing our worth and our value, who and whose we are. But when we don't see ourselves the way God sees us, then you'll walk with your head held down. You'll walk seeking for validation or approval from other people. And the reality is you don't need their approval, especially when God has already spoken to you and given you what he told you or what he has given you. So a lot of times people find themselves confusing love with effort or struggle. And those are two different things. If someone truly loves you, that's going to look different. And so that's why it's important. We have to look at actions. We have to look at or even understand what real love is. A lot of people struggle because they don't even know what real love is. And so that's an issue in itself. Another way that childhood trauma shows up in relationships is in abandonment and rejection sensitivity levels. So basically, many people stay in relationships because of the fear of being left, fear of being alone. Some find themselves overgiving, so they don't, so they can prevent the loss. So they overgive. They feel like if I give you more and more, that'll make you stay. And the reality of it is you don't want anybody like that, right? You don't want anybody who's with you because they're afraid to be alone. They're with you because they just think the more that they give that you're going to come around. And a lot of times people have anxiety around conflict, so they just choose to say nothing. And they just operate in silence. Internally, they're dealing with so many different things, but they're operating in silence. So prayer alone is not enough. Yes, we can pray together, do all these things, but you have to be willing to do the work on yourself. That's why I tell people when you go to therapy, you both need to make sure that you're working on yourself in some way or another, because when you don't work on yourself, it's going to come to a place where there's a big divide. And the reality of it is we have to make sure that we are working on ourselves in order to be the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. And so, yes, we're going to have to pray. We're going to have to understand that faith without works is dead. So we're going to have to set good boundaries. We have to be aware. The first step is being aware. Once you understand that something is wrong, or I do have some childhood trauma that has been unresolved, then that's when we can start working together. A lot of times people don't understand because of transference. They end up lashing out at one another, not realizing that it's not even you. It's because something you said triggered something that maybe their mom said or their dad said. And the reality of it is we have to invite God into our healing process. We have to understand that God is a healer. We have to be aware and understand that no matter what we're going through and where we are today is not where we're going to always be. And yes, you don't get to choose your families, your childhood, your upbringing, none of that. But you do get to choose this road of healing. So as we close, I want to leave you with this quote of the day. What you learn to survive as a child often becomes what you tolerate as an adult. What you learn to survive as a child often becomes what you tolerate as an adult. And so I want to encourage you to break that cycle. Break that cycle. And if you're looking for a way to break that cycle, make sure to go to Rooted Within Her today. We have amazing tools and resources to help you to begin to break the cycle. So make sure you go to rootedwithinher.com and let's start breaking the cycle. Let's stop being in this cycle repetitively over and over and over, as we know that where we are today is not where we're always going to be. And so it has to start with you. So I want you to go to Rooted Within Her. I want you to download 7 Steps to Heal, Rebuild, and Date God's Way After Divorce. And let's begin your journey to just be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. You deserve it.
Hey, yeah, I'm built to endure. Rooted within her, rooted within her. Healed and whole, now I'm stronger for sure. Yeah. She got that truth that'll lift you up. Mindset shifty, yeah, we leveling up. From broken to bold, from tired to lit. Brittany Brown got you rooted in. Yeah. Rooted within her, rooted within her. Faith, fitness, focus, yeah, I'm built to endure.